Well, well, well. Look who it is. Yes, it's me. I'm back, kind of. So, where have you been, Mr. Jojo Puff, for the last 4 years? Alright, look. A lot happened in these past 4 years. Damn, has it really been 4 years? Good lord. But anyways, so, a boy goes to college, graduates, has a really bad year of job hunting, and then decides to take his current job a lot more serious. But enough of that boring stuff. What matters is that we're back. But I'm sure you're wondering, why are you back? What are you doing? Well, to answer that question, we need to go to a certain video. That being this video, right here. Big shoutouts to Akamos. I hope I'm saying your name right. But yeah, essentially, what this video is, right here, is a fantasy baseball league for the game Mario Sluggers. Yeah, it's really cool. Really inspiring. I watched, well, as we can see here, I watched this video. I didn't watch this video. Sorry, I didn't watch this video. But I watched this video, it was really good, and I watched this video. I actually need to finish this video. But all of them were very good, they were very entertaining, and, you know, it got me thinking, hey, I got a bunch of goobers, and, you know, I could probably set this up. So, yeah, that is exactly what this is. I'm gonna host a fantasy baseball AI league for Mario Sluggers. Yep, that plain and simple. Except it's not, because if it was that simple, then this video would only be like 2 minutes. But it's not that simple. In fact, it's gonna be a lot more complicated than that, because I'm not just saying that I'm back for that reason. Oh, no. I'm here to explain the process that went behind all of this. That's right. Join me about 2 months ago, setting up a Super Mario Sluggers AI League. So, probably wondering, where do we even start with this? Well, yeah, that's what I asked myself about 2 months ago. Where do I even start with this? Well, whenever you think about it, well, you know, it's always good to give the players something to look at. So I was like, alright, well, I got the game, so let's just start looking at stuff and see if anything hits me. So eventually, after a lot of thinking and a lot of looking, I ended up putting this together. So this is an Excel sheet, and as you all can see, it's got the captains, it's got all the players, and then it's got some me's. We'll get back to those a little bit later on why there are so many of those. We got the teams, and we got the team colors, and yeah, this was just something nice for them to look at. So, you know, whenever we were going through team draft and all that, they'd have, you know, something to grasp at instead of me just having to repeat myself over and over trying to name 72 characters to each of the individual captains because they had no idea what this game was. Yeah, that's right. None of the captains have ever played this game. I just, you know, offered it to them, and I'm like, hey, you guys want to do a fantasy baseball league? And they were all just like, yeah, that sounds good. Okay, everybody except one person. One of the captains actually has played this game, but that guy doesn't. All the others, they had no idea what they were getting into. So, this was mainly for something they had to look at and kind of be a little bit more comfortable whenever they were drafting. But then the question comes up. You guys that are familiar with this game, you're probably wondering, well, wait a minute, Jojo Puff. Isn't this game, like, you know, a lot more complicated than that? Aren't there stats? And what about the abilities? Well, what about the chemistry with all the characters? How are they going to deal with that? And, you know, that did hit me. So, you know what I did? Oh, you know, I didn't do anything too crazy. I just made an Excel sheet that had everyone's stats, everyone's abilities, a brief description of what all of them did, and a chemistry link for every character, including the Mii's. Yep, for every single character. Now, did I have to do this? No, I really didn't. But, you know, once I started going, I got to about Yellow Toad before I really started regretting this decision, but I was too far in at that point, and I wasn't going to turn back. So I finished it. Yep, there's just an Excel sheet. Has all the characters, all their stats, all their chemistry links, all their abilities, a brief description of what they were good at. Oh yeah, also at the bottom, I have all the items. And since we're down here, I might as well explain, well, what the heck some of this stuff is. So, let's just start with... Here, let's start with me, because he's a good, rounded character. So this is everyone's stats. I worded that a bit dumb. Everyone does not have the same stats. Everyone has different stats. I'm sure some of you noticed, but I just worded that a bit wrong, so I was just kind of correcting myself. Right. So first, we got this little baseball icon. This is basically, to summarize it, a throwing stat. This is how good somebody is at throwing the ball. And pitching, but not really. Let me break it down. So this stat, and I don't know the exact numbers behind this. This stat basically is a mix of how fast they throw the ball and pitching, but it also is how good they are at curving the ball. So some of these players will have, like, you know, a mediocre pitching stat. Like, I know one off the top of my head, a Blue Pianta. So he's got 5 pitching, and all of his pitching is because he throws it very fast, but if he gets put on the pitcher's mound, that guy cannot curve the ball, like at all. So just, yeah, if whenever you see a pitcher's stats come up, just know that somebody that has super high pitching, like an 8 or 9, they can throw it fast and curve it a lot, unless they're Toadsworth. Most of the time, somebody with a 5 pitching stat is either going to throw it really fast or have a good curve. Next, let's go to the bat symbol, which is obviously batting. Again, I don't have the exact numbers. I do not dive into code or anything like that, but it's very self-explanatory. The higher this stat is, the easier it is for them to hit the ball very hard. So it's possible for everyone in this game, including people with like 1 batting stat, to get a home run. But this stat just kind of dictates on how easy it is whenever you compare players together. So, like, let's take Toadsworth, for instance. Toadsworth has a very bad batting stat. And then whenever you compare that to, like, let's just get a Critter, because a Critter has a really good batting stat, right? So it is much easier for this Critter to get a home run than it is for Toadsworth, because his batting stat is much higher than Toadsworth. So next we'll go to this glove right here. And this is the fielding stat, and it isn't a weird mix of anything. Again, don't know exact numbers, but this is just basically how well they are to receive a ball. That sounds weird, I'll just say. It's basically whenever a ball comes towards somebody, if it hits their hitbox, they're going to try to catch it, right? And this stat basically is the determinant on whether they catch the ball or whether they perform what I call a fumble, and they will fumble the ball and they don't catch it. So depending on how high this fielding stat is, you know, whether they will catch the ball more often or fumble the ball more often. So somebody with a really low fielding stat, you probably don't want to have somewhere important. And next, last one, very simple, running stat. This is how fast a player runs, both whenever they're running the bases or if they're running around on the field. Nothing further needs to be explained about that. If they have a low running stat, they are going to be very slow. If they have a high one, they're going to be really fast. Alright, next up, these abilities. Abilities, I'm just going to briefly touch up on because, you know, there are a lot of abilities in this game. But basically, you will have 2 types of abilities. You'll have a running ability, and you'll have a fielding ability. No player has both. You will only have a player that has a running ability or a fielding ability. For instance, the quick throw that the Mii has, this is a fielding ability, and here, let's just read my little explanation. So, quick throw throws the ball to another player as though me has good chemistry with them. This effect is enhanced whenever throwing to a player me has good chemistry with. Now, this isn't, what Quick Throw actually does, but it's a good example of what it does. So Quick Throw essentially just raises your throwing stat, period, whenever you're throwing to anyone. So it is basically like me is throwing to people that he has good chemistry with, but he's not. And then it is better whenever me is throwing to somebody that he has actual chemistry with. So that's why I worded it that way, and that's kind of like with every other ability. This whole thing is kind of like in my own words, right? Just, my personal opinion on playing the game. But anyways, let's give an example of the other type of ability. So let's just take Bowser, for example. Bowser, he's got the spin attack ability. So this is just, it's gonna proc during a close play. If you don't know what close play is, it's whenever a runner is getting to a base at the same time a ball is being thrown, and then a quick time event pops up, and it's basically whoever presses the button fast enough wins. And if they have this ability, so Bowser would perform spin attack, where he would briefly spin in his shell, hit the enemy player, and then that player would be stunned, and he would make it on base safely. So yeah, there are a lot of other abilities in this game as well, but let's move on to something else. Let's go down to these items down here. So we got a bunch of good ones, like we got Green Shell, we got Bomb, we got Banana Peel, Fireball, we got some Mini Boos, and a Pow Block. But what are these? What are these really? Like, how do you even get an item? Well, as explained in here, open this little box. Items are obtained by having chemistry with other players. The next batter in line will use the item. And yeah, it is actually exactly how I explained it. So let's just pop up this mystical batting order in front of you, and then put some players that have chemistry with each other. Well, I'll just do Mario and Luigi because it is the easiest one that comes to mind. So say Mario is your first batter, right? And you have Luigi in the second batting position. Well, Luigi and Mario have chemistry with each other. So that means whenever Mario is on the plate about to hit the ball, if he successfully lands a hit on the ball, then while the ball is flying in the air, Luigi will get to throw one of these items, picked at random by the game, at the enemies on the field. That is how items work. Period. Very simple. Let's move on to the next thing. So, chemistry in general. So this is basically the two main reasons you want chemistry on your team, period, is for these two effects right here. So, Buddy Toss and Buddy Strike. Or I believe it is called something else in the game, even though this is what it says on the loading screen pages. But basically, if you have two people that like each other in the outfield with chemistry, they have this ability, well, everyone has this ability, where they can attack the ball. And whenever a player makes an attack on the ball, it passes it to the nearest player next to them. Now, if this player receives the ball, they can, just throw the ball. If they receive the ball from somebody they like, they will then perform a strike throw if they throw it fast enough. And this strike throw is essentially just a ball they throw with, double the speed that they normally would. It is a very fast throw, and most of the time you're just going to see it in the outfield. Sometimes it pops up in infield plays, and that's going to be really cool if that ends up happening. But that is essentially what chemistry is, and what it's used for most of the time, is for items and this effect, and most importantly, the next effect. In fact, what chemistry is mainly used for, period, in this game. The Buddy Jump. So, Buddy Jump is essentially the same as Buddy Toss. To perform this, you need two people that like each other in the outfield. If a home run was going to get hit, those two are going to stack up next to each other, and then they're going to jump off each other's heads, jump up 50 feet in the sky, and catch the ball. It is very good, and it is very devastating to not have in the outfield. Very devastating. To the point where I stressed this while I was having some coaching sessions with some of the coaches who had not played this game before. Also, a little note that I made at the bottom. This is also true, but it's not the most important thing. Players who have chemistry with each other have a bonus to throwing. Anyone who does not have chemistry with each other has a small chance to have bad chemistry and mess up a throw to another player. It is a small chance, so don't feel too pressured if some players on your team don't have chemistry. And yeah, it's true. Chemistry is important in this game, but it's not the worst thing to not have chemistry in your infield. But, you know, I laid it out for everybody, right? Everyone had access to this page. So they had all the stats, all the abilities, everything, like mechanics-wise, items-wise. Everyone had it fairly. So even the players coming in that hadn't played this game before had access to this before the draft. So where are we at? Well, we've explained the draft that I have given them, and we have also explained all of the items and abilities in the game. So, what's left then? Well, that would just leave the draft itself, right? Well, you know, the more I looked at it, right, so my initial plan on this, and I still ended up doing this, but my initial plan was whenever somebody drafted their team, so say somebody got Luigi, right? So Bob has Luigi. And obviously, Bob would get, well, you know, Luigi. And there you go. Bob now has Luigi. And I was gonna do that for the whole draft. If anybody had their turn come up and then they wanted somebody, they would just look on here to see who wasn't taken and then get to pick. But, you know, the more I got to thinking about it and all that, and I was like, you know, it's just kind of hard to look at, right? Well, have no fear. As we've seen from the previous 2 Excel sheets, I can be very accommodating to our players. So that's what I did. I made something more accommodating. So here was the draft order, what it ended up being. And you can pause and look at this in detail for as much as you want. Well, while I'm at it, let me go ahead and introduce our players that are going to be playing. So the first in the draft, Shadow Fox. You can also call him Jace. He doesn't mind. He ended up picking Yoshi as his captain. Second, we have Hibiscus Knight, or the returning of Josh. Y'all might remember him from 4 years ago. He ended up picking Peach. And then the Fool is next, and he would like to remain the Fool throughout this series, so I shall just call him the Fool. He ended up picking Bowser. Gilder, I actually haven't asked him if he cares if I call him his name, so I'm just gonna call him Gilder for now. He ended up picking Donkey Kong. And then me was next. I opted to go last pick in the draft since I had played this game extensively compared to everyone else. So I defaulted myself to last pick. But wait a minute, Joseph. You're not last pick. Who's this down here? Well, as we'll see with the plans later, 5 people was kind of awkward to work with. So, you know, some of my players pointed out to me, they're like, well, we still got a lot of people left over from the draft. Why don't you just put together a CPU team? And I was like, brilliant. So, obviously, you go to what everyone goes to whenever you need to put something random together, ChatGPT. And I quite literally, in the most simple of simple terms, just gave him, hey, I need a team for Super Mario Sluggers. I gave him Wario as his captain, and everyone else left in the draft, and pressed enter. And he came up with, albeit, a very solid team. Like, I'm looking at this team, and I'm like, man, that's not a bad team. So, honestly, very welcome 6th member to the league. Like, I think he's gonna do pretty well. And also, I would just like to congratulate everyone else for actually putting together very solid teams altogether. Even though some of them were questionable decisions, But while we're on the topic, let's introduce the team names as well. So we got up first the Hispanic Monsters. And yes, I know everyone's giving me the eyebrow, but he's within rights. And while we're on the topic, yes, his whole concept for this team was, I'm going to pick the players that look like they're the most Hispanic. To that, I asked him, then why did you pick Bowser as your captain? To which he sent me, ah yes, it's great to have friends. Anyways, next up, we've got the Moral Monarchs, the Barracuda Bows, the Exotic Eggs, the Evolving Wilds, and, from ChatGPT itself, the Wrecking Muscles. No real comments on the other names, because, Moral Monarchs, good name. Barracuda Bows kinda has a twist to it. It's my name. I'm proud of it. It sounds good. The Exotic Eggs was actually named that way because he tried to pick one of every race in the game, which he got pretty close to doing that. All he's missing is a critter and I think a toad. Other than that, he would basically have everybody. Oh, and he is missing one of the columns, actually. So he's missing 3. Who knows? Maybe within the first 3 weeks, he'll get those players. Well, what do you mean by that, Jojo Puff? Well, since we've gone over all of the drafting, we've gone over the draft, we've gone over the character sheets on what they had, we got the draft order for what they went through. Well, what's next for you to show us? Wow. Let me introduce you to the plan. Welcome to the flowchart, everyone. This is going to be a very, very, very complicated process. So, put on your hats, buckle in your seatbelts, get some popcorn, and I'm just gonna start yapping. So, up here, we have where we just left off, the drafts. So, after the draft gets complete, we go down here. Player sheets. I have not shown you those yet, but I will show you those in a second. So, after the draft is done, I will make the player sheets for all the players, and from there, we will get the fielding positions, the fielding captains, the bench players, and the batting order for everyone. And really quick, I'm going to explain what a fielding captain is, especially to those of you who have actually played this game before, because you know this is not an actual role. So, the fielding captain is basically one of the 2 extra players, and yes, I said 2 extra players, as some of you might have noticed in the drafting order, there were 11 players on each team, and any of you who know baseball or know the game would know you only have 9 players on the field at a time. Well, those 2 bench players have a purpose. Well, at least one of them does. One of them is actually just benched and doesn't play. But the other one serves as what we are calling the fielding captain. And this is basically, and literally, also a useless role. It does absolutely nothing except lets you feel better about yourself at certain times. So, in the game, you will have a pitcher. This pitcher is going to start off the game. He's gonna, throw some strikes, get some hits and all that. And then he's gonna get tired after a while. And the game is going to change him out, randomly. Well, not really randomly, there is a method behind it, but after a while, it does get basically random, and sometimes there is some really troll picks that go up on the mound. And for those troll moments, well, you got your fielding captain to blame. So now, whenever they put Baby DK on the mound, you can always yell at Baby Luigi for doing that. Gosh dang it, Baby Luigi, what are you doing? Why are you putting Baby DK on the mound? But anyways, moving on. So after we get all of those done, so after I know the fielding positions, the fielding captains, the bench players, and the batting order, I will review and record all of that. And then we will go all the way down here and make the schedule. So, I'm not gonna show this, but we do have our own little Discord that I have set up, and we have our own little scheduling methods, we'll put it. So after we find a day that works for everyone, we will go here, days, and go to week 1. So at week 1, we will have the games. All the games are going to be recorded. And then after the first few games, we will have the week 1 trade. And those trades will get recorded in the player sheets. And then we will go and do all of this mess again, and you see where this is going. So the trades will happen for about 3 weeks, as we can see here. So we'll have week 1 trade, week 2 trade, and week 3 trade. And then after week 3, we will have no more trades. And week 4 will happen, we'll have those games and all that. And then after week 5 games, well, what's this? A star player? What does that mean? Well, there's a mechanic in Super Mario Sluggers where you can star a player. And what this does essentially is just raise their stats by 1. That is quite literally what it is. That's all it does. But, I mean, it does make some players very good. Like, if you get Mario as your star player, well, he's got all red stats all of a sudden, and he's pretty scary. So, as much as I'm downplaying getting a star character it's actually pretty good in some cases. So yeah, they'll be really excited to get their star character after week 5. But now that we've gone over that, well, what about all this stuff? You haven't touched on any of this over here. Box scores. Well, now would actually be a perfect time for me to bring up the fabled player sheets. Ah yes, look at these. Nice and neat. So this is my player sheet, as you can see here, Jojo Puff. This is my team currently. And they don't have any stats right now because they haven't played any games. But as we can see here, I have gone and everything will get automatically recorded down here for fumbles and all that, and MVPs, everything like that. We are going to have our own little scoring system that I will explain a little bit in depth later, but this is what a player sheet is. And the box scores will be recorded in here. To anyone that's wondering, well, what the heck is a box score? I haven't played this game. Well, let me explain that. On your screen right now, you should see a box score at the end of the game. And it's got a lot of numbers. And it's also showing the MVP of the game. And yeah, this is the box score. At the end of the game, everything a player did gets recorded, and it is shown here. Player 2's team as well, so you can see who would have been the MVP on that team, and who's MVP on this team. So yeah, these numbers, they get recorded. But it's actually going to be a little different. Like I said, we're having our own little scoring system, but I'm going to explain that a little bit later once we get to the records page. Yes, there's more Excel sheets. We're almost done, I swear. But anyways, let's go back to the plan. So now that you know what box scores are and the player records are, well, what about this? What's the team records sheet? Well, let's go to that, shall we? So, oh my goodness. What are we looking at here? So, the record sheets. This shows all of the teams. And as we can see here, it will show their wins, their losses, what their total scores are, the maps that are in rotation, and the games over here. I will explain these. These are kind of easier to explain on the plan, so once we go back there, I'll explain what week, round, game, and all this complicated, convoluted stuff is. Anyways, you can see over here, we've got the records for every player. So these are just kind of like an overall look at all of the players in the game, and these numbers will come directly from the player sheets, which will be recorded by myself. But then, let's go up here, because as I said a little earlier, we have our own little scoring system, and let me explain why that is. So, for a very long time, I have played this game extensively, and I have noticed something that is very frustrating, specifically for the fielding. So for fielding, how a player gets scores for that is by getting what is essentially a nice play. I'll put one up on screen. It's essentially if they dive to catch a ball or jump to catch a ball, and they would have missed the ball if they didn't do that action, right? Like, that's a close play. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. But also, they get 0 points for simply catching the ball and throwing it to first and getting that guy out. And it's like, I've seen a lot of games because I had to do a lot of testing for this, right? And it would just be sad to look at whenever I saw Boomerang Bro playing his heart out on shortstop, catching all of these balls and throwing them to first. And at the end of the game, he would get a fielding of 0 because he didn't perform a nice play. And I'm just like, bro, that guy played his heart out. And they're saying, you did nothing! So yeah, these are kind of like my own way to pad the stats a little bit, you could say. As, you know, it actually will show what players did that game instead of just, oh, you made some nice plays, here's some fielding points. And also, they will be punished for making fumbles, because I actually believe that should be something that's kept in box scores. How many fumbles they made that game. Because, you know, there could be some times when a player makes a fumble and it's not that big a deal, but there are also times when a player makes a fumble and you lose 3 runs because they made that fumble. So we're going to be counting fumbles for negative points. Let's just go down the list now. So batting, they will get +5 for a successful hit, and if they make it on first, plus the box scores. This is mostly just concerning home runs and stuff like that. I think it's like they get 10 points per person they scored, so a grand slam would give them like 40 points or something. Like I said, I don't know the exact scoring for a lot of this stuff, but I'm going to be keeping track of this in-game. So fielding, I already explained why this is. So this will, at least if they catch a ball, throw it to first, get an out. If they get an out in general on the field, they will get a +5 for it. So they won't get 0 whenever Boomerang Bro is working his heart out, getting all of the outs in an inning, and then at the end of the game, he gets nothing to show for it. Now, they at least get something to show for it. Fumbles, I kind of touched up on it, but fumbles, 1 point per fumble, 1 point equals -10. And that's already worked in the player sheets by themselves. It'll work itself out. Running. If a player makes it home, they will get +5 in running. Very simple. But I will not count it for them if somebody else makes a home run. Those points will obviously go to the guy that made home run, and not the guy that is just running home from the guy hitting the home run. Next is items. +5 for hitting an enemy player near the ball. Does not count if the player is hit after throwing a ball. If a pop fly is coming towards somebody and, you know, they throw a green shell or something, it hits them, makes them not catch the ball, they get +5 for that. Now, if a pop fly is heading towards a player, they throw a green shell, the guy catches the ball and then gets hit by the green shell, that will not get them +5 because they did not stop the guy from catching the ball. And then MVPs, 1 point per end of game MVP, 1 point equals 50. Pretty self-explanatory. At the end of the game, an MVP will be awarded by the game, and that is most likely just going to be who got the highest score that game. So the MVP points will be recorded on the player sheets, and like I said, the fumbles. So if I put 1 here, Birdo gets -10. And then if I put 1 right here, she gets 40. Because the MVP is giving her 50 points, but the fumble is giving her -10. So now you know what these are, and all this is, and all these are. So let's go back to the plan. Well, what's left in the plan? Well, after you go through all 8 weeks of the games and all that, everything gets recorded in the box scores, the record sheet, the team records. Well, then we get the tournament seeding. Well, Joseph, you haven't really explained anything about matches or anything. How are we going to know anything about the tournament seeding? Well, that's a good point. So why don't we go and explain how matches and scoring are going to work? How matches will be determined. So, each week, you're going to have 3 rounds of games. So in week 1, there's going to be a round 1. All of these games are going to be determined randomly. Round 2 is going to be winners versus losers, highest scores versus lowest scores. And round 3, same thing, winners versus losers, highest scores versus lowest scores. And then down here we can see, getting into week 2, well, round 1 is still the same, but round 2 gets into some positive versus negatives. Well, what does that mean? Well, here's how our scoring is going to be. And it's pretty much the exact same as Akamos. I hope I'm saying your name right. The score is going to be determined by how many points over the other team you have scored. So, for instance, if the score was 10-3, the winning team will get +7, and the losing team will get -7. But remember, folks, this score only determines the seed placements for the final tournament. It is not over until you have been eliminated in losers. You'll have plenty of time to improve your team and strategies before then. Never give up. And that's just a little thing to keep the players going. But yeah, that's what the positive and negatives are going to be. And then round 3, we will try and get rid of any undefeated teams. And we will also start having some player clashes where the negatives will choose who they play. And we'll just give some, we'll just try and give some variety to the picks. And then later down the line, you can see all this. You can pause and see, all the different methods I have come up with in the last few things. But yeah, that's kind of how the games and the matches and the scoring is going to go. And after we get the final scores, we can come back over here. Where did it go? Yes, up here. We can come back up here. We can get the tournament seedings, and then that will make the elimination brackets. And my friends, we've done it. We've explained the entire process of how you go through and make a Super Mario Sluggers AI League. But Joseph, that seems so hard for you to do. I mean, you didn't even explain how you made all the player drafts and all that. Well, don't you worry, my friends. I have actually left a link to all of these in the description. So, if any of you want to go out of your way to do this, well, I saved you a whole lot of trouble now, didn't I? So, you won't be able to edit them, but you will be able to edit a copy of them. So, you can just take these copies for yourself, turn them into whatever the heck you want, and then have fun on your own. And trust me, guys, this is very fun. So, if you like Mario Sluggers, and you have a group of boys that you want to put this together with, I would highly recommend doing this. It is just such a good time. But anyways, that's going to be all from me. I have no clue how long this is going to take. Scheduling has kind of been hectic and random, but we're going to try our best. I'm going to just record every game. I don't know how much I'm going to go into editing the whole thing, but, you know, there's probably going to be little edits here and there, but mostly I'm going to leave it in as unedited and just sheer footage of what happens. But that's going to be all from me. Hope to see you guys real soon, and hope you end up enjoying. And here's to a good I'm sorry. I can't. Okay. And here's to a good season to the COC. Well, hey there. It looks like you made it to the end of the video. Very strange, impressed. I'm not sure what to say. But if you stuck around this long, that means you obviously enjoyed some part of the video. And, a lot of those are gonna come out. So, if you enjoyed this one, you'll probably enjoy my other ones. Probably. So why don't you go ahead and just subscribe? It'll help you keep up with the videos I release in the future. And, yeah. Hope to see you soon.